having a constitutional foundation whatsoever. It's a decree made by an incompetent, inferior court. Logically, not Article 3, and logically, not constitutional, i.e., mandate.
Okay, so Richard Amonrod basis, can you talk about constructing a lien against corrupted officials?
And this is where, now let's look, this is the point. So for those who comprehend those principles, look up surety bond. Write that down, surety bond. The same way that you would issue a writ or a claim against any other insurance bond, etc., is in itself a lis pendens in its nature against someone who trespasses against your right or your estate. Now we're back to the word estate, aren't we? And your status, isn't it? That's called the lien. And guess what happened when a couple of them are lodged against persons who claim to have authority that don't? The insurance companies will no longer back their bond because it will kill the commissioner's office. This is why they don't teach the people that anybody in political position that claim any authority by law must carry a surety or equity bond. And what that lien is a claim against their bond. That's why you do both quo warrantos and averments of jurisdictions, and you do research on anyone that claims authority because they have an equity bond, make a claim on it. That's a lien.
Can you explain what?
And now you're going to go ahead.
Explain quo warranto.
Quo warranto is what is known as the DOAO, or the authorized legitimate delegation of authority by which an office or an officer holds office, with a time of enactment and a termination time, and is always by law variably constructed under Constitution law, by no other methodology. And that's what is known as, when the question comes before any person who claims authority, are you, he or she, an Article 3 judicial constitutional officer? Just that simple. And if they don't answer it, you already know they're a fraud, and they ain't going to answer it because they're actually foreign corporate operatives. That's why they don't teach people to do quo warrantos. And this is back to even when Drew Ali said enforce the Constitution. The more you understand that, the more you will understand when you enforce the Constitution, you're enforcing treaties, which supersede the Constitution. And it's the supreme law of the land. And the judges of every state must abide thereby and must support it. And that includes the judicial officers, the executive, etc., legislative, etc. And any laws of any state to the contrary has no standing whatsoever. That's why it says notwithstanding. So read Article 3 of the Constitution for the United States. Read Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution for the United States. Read Article 6 of the Constitution for the United States. And read Act 6 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws of the Moorish Divine and National Movement via the Moorish Holy Temple of Science and the Moorish Science Temple of America, and see that they obviously harmonize. And that's as a counter to many of the naysayers that have been infiltrated among us.
Question is, can you explain apostille number 1?
Apostille is generally still you're dealing with jurisdiction. So and this is back to my argument with many people, and many people who keep calling the de facto operatives government. They're seeking for them to give them, or what you call, not unlike say a fee simple type claim or an allodial claim. they have no capacity to exercise it because they're not the people of the land and they're not the legitimate government. The rights of sovereign divine right already belong to the people. This is where the Declaration of Nationality comes from, and this is where you organize, etc., in your judicial operations as justices, executing your right of execution of a state and reversion of a state. And of course, this is where your councils will come in. But those councils must be clear, and they're councils, not so much councils.
Here's a question from L Nucleus Bay. Should Moors be concerned about chakras and crystals?
Isn't that part of African culture? Aren't you going back to your culture on multiple levels? Isn't that your relationship to nature and nature's law? Distinguished from the artificialities that have been imposed upon the people? Just a reminder. So I'm not saying pro or con. I'm saying answer your own questions. It becomes obvious.
Okay, let me see. I thought I asked you this question. Didn't I ask you about the locked up politicians? I don't know whether you answered it.
Oh, no, we didn't go into
But you
that.
didn't
That's
answer.
what's taking place right now with what you now. Remember, we were talking earlier, and I think we got distracted with the multiple levels of the questions and the necessity to actually talk some of the paradigms of the operations. During the Lincoln administration, when they did what is known as the Sine Die action of covert subversion and misprision, which would include the assassination of Lincoln, which is simply a part of this construction. And they under de facto operations enforced the doctrine of discovery and the unum sanctum operations under the Circle Church and Chancery. And this is where those operatives of the Bar Association are actually running all the courts, etc. And so when you're looking at, you understand also that during the Lincoln administration, he set up a small cadre of generals, etc., within the military to protect the Constitution and treaty operations or the legitimate operations of the United States Republic. And that operation is called Q. And I'm sure that many of you heard this word Q being thrown around in recent years and thinking that it's a new thing. Well, that started during the Lincoln administration. That Q operation was assigned to Donald J. Trump by the part of the military that has maintained loyalty to the Republic order of legitimate business at Morocco, etc., under the United States or States United, the Republic, distinguished from the U.S. democracy platform of the dark priesthood of the Circle Church and Chancery. And so Donald Trump was assigned to restore as a figurehead, because there's really a lot of other people behind him, the order of the Republic. And logically, by virtue of that, the treaty enforcement and everything else to the true heirs of the land comes into play. And I remind Moors of that. It's not so much the Constitution as they see on the surface, it's what that really implies. And your mind needs to go back to the issue that all treaties and agreements entered into before the adoption of that Constitution shall be binding upon the United States, etc., as well as under the Confederation. And all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land. Once you start seeing that in Article 6, you start recognizing the implications. And of course, you understand why some of your so-called black civilized or civil rights leaders and none of your politicians will make emphasis on that, nor will they make emphasis what I read to you earlier from the treaty book, etc. and why constitutional principles are always presented to our people from the perspective that it doesn't apply to us, when in fact it's a key tie to the enforcement of the treaties. And it's the supreme law of the land.
But with regard to these politicians, I'm
They're being arrested.
Yeah, that was the
Under
question.
misprision and treason. Now look at at these terms and write these down.
But why are we still seeing them?
Yeah, but I'm just CGI and other things, in clones and doubles.
All right,
let's look at mandates distinguished from supreme law. Let's look at constitution and treaty obligations enforcements. And these things you write down because we're not going to go into all these things. Let's look at the motu proprio presented by Pope Francis in 2013. Let's look at world government corporations that went bankrupt in these late years, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. And you'll see that the United States is prominently listed that they're bankrupt. Look at the meeting that the Pope had with so-called religious leaders from all persuasions, etc., Islam, so-called Judaism, and Christianity. And you noticed how all of them were kissing his finger. And you want to understand the dogma situation. And their promise to stop exercising the doctrine of discovery, which has still been enforced, that our people been falsely told was racism and prejudice to cover it up. And this is why people that keep on promoting the race paradigm are frauds, not because I say so, because when you know the real history, you already know they're in place to divert your attention from the reality of the doctrine of discovery and unum sanctum operations. And therefore, our people been continuously being injured. And of course, this is back to the issue of my concern with people who have this knowledge. Get out in the field, get your hands dirty, take off them royal clothes, and start liberating your people. Like Noble Drew Ali said, with all these sheiks and sheikesses and grand sheiks, he says, the hedges and the highways, which means take it to the people. Excuse me. Go ahead, Dr. Nayyib.
Well, so I need you to weigh in on this because there's a comment here. T is not a more, B either. So, wait a minute, let me finish where you said T is not a more, B either. So I'm thinking that it is like double teaming against the Moors. Look at what's happening. And then the other follow-up is that this individual says, my reading as well, Taj confuses on this. So the fact that I'm just saying,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm putting them back both there because you know what they're saying.
I'll explain. Go ahead.
When you talk about them being being assigned, they're saying, and
right,
with good reason, that neither of them are Moors.
Legitimate statement. Go ahead.
And we've even said that.
Statement.
We've even said that with regard to where do we figure in
legitimate statement
to the fight that is over our estate.
Legitimate statement.
Okay, so weigh in.
And legitimate statement and legitimate critique.
Okay.
Now you got to look at what you call political chess. You make a move, Rome makes a move. All right? What is it that Trump's assigned to do? To restore the republic. This is on their part with the military, because the nations won't trade with them anymore, and they won't buy U.S. Treasury bonds anymore, which are the foundation for their economic system that made the Jesuit Order's Federal Reserve what is known as the reserve currency for the world, a status which has been lost. However, you're in flux. When I say you're in flux, because they have been controlling under feudal law your estate. This is back to you comprehending that you've been under occupation. Therefore, you have interest. You have interest because they're occupying your land. They're occupying your estate. They've stolen your gold and silver. They're operating on your land in breach of treaty, etc. By default, you have interest. However, as we said in opening, they've been doing what? Pretending to be Americans, haven't they? And they've been battling over your estate for power over your estate. Meanwhile, you're supposed to have been standing up and starting to take your places among the affairs of men, not forgetting that they're de facto, which I've always said they're de facto. I understand and comprehend exactly what I've been saying. What you're looking at is chess. And guess what? By default, some of our people have been the pawns, and I'm saying by fact, I'm telling many of you, step off the board. Observe them battling over your estate and take your places among the affairs of men.
So basically, even though they're battling over
your estate, it affects you.
So what is our position as having not taken our place in the affairs of men? What is the move now in this chess game for us? Because there's just two sides and we're the third side.
Exactly. So now you're supposed to have been studying, haven't you? Isn't that what Drawley set up? Can't say that he didn't, because he certainly did.
Well, yeah, he did.
And then he said, come all ye Asiatics of North America, and hear the truth about your nationality and your birthrights. You're not Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian. Come and link yourselves back with the families of nations. Now, look at Act 1 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. He says, the chairman and moderator is put in power to make law and to enforce law if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known by the members of the Moorish Temple of Science, i.e. Moorish Science Temple of America. Is that not what's written? So meanwhile, while our people are in a learning stage, those occupiers are fighting over your estate, hoping that you don't wake up. But when it all boils down, when they restore the republic, guess what? They're restoring the obligations of the treaty. I suggest that you read civil orders issued to Barack H. Obama by Pope Francis. And then you'll understand why I've been saying what I'm saying. Trump is assigned. I told you that. It's a chess move. And our people are behind the curve. The heirs of the estate are behind the curve. All this time while they're battling, you should be studying. And doing your shadow work. And nature will take care of the rest.
I would think, though, in this battle that's going on, if Mr. T's side is...
So you don't look at that. They're two sides of the same coin.
No, but I know that. If he and whoever is with him should prevail, that we have a better opportunity or chance
that's
of restoring
that's the chess move.
Our estate, because of and the reason why I say that is because of some of what was done while he was still in office that many Moors were not aware of, that he's actually he had made executive orders. He had sent information. I have copies of letters that he sent telling Moors to come get their stuff.
Exactly.
That they were entitled to it.
Exactly.
That had stopped. I saw them. I have copies.
Say public for our people, what can you lose? What do you have to lose? You keep voting for the Ku Klux Klan, i.e. the Democratic Party, which means the cabal. And it doesn't mean that the rhinos of the Republican Party are any better.
Right, because you got them on from both sides.
This is why they've all been countering him. That's not defending Trump. It's understanding the chess move. He was put in place to restore the Republic. And I suggest that you all read the civil orders from Pope Francis to Barack H. Obama. You can pull it up on your phones right now, and that will be your answer. I wasn't unaware of what I was saying, and I wasn't unaware that people would take it wrong. I didn't call them that they were Moore's direct heirs. However, we have interest in their affairs, and they're battling over your lost estate. Pay attention. And be prepared to take your places of restoration of your estate. That's why over the last 10 years or so, I've been telling people a reversion of estate, because it's promoting a concept of thinking. So that you're doing your studies in the area that of competence that our people, as these things collapse, because they are collapsing, for our people to restore competently a right of claim of their estate, and not be distracted or diverted by people among our own who are parasitic in their character, which his sister was talking about earlier, that we got to cleanse from among us, who are really secret operatives working secretly with the Bar Association, making these things complex when they're not complex whatsoever. It's just our people need to purge themselves of false thinking and false paradigms. But it doesn't mean that they're not supposed to look at things. I'm not saying that. No. I'm saying because everything is a chess move. And even when you look at things that Drawley did earlier, you'll see them falling in place right now. It's called fifth-dimensional chess.
Here's a question. Can parents request the surety bonds of teachers, faculty when they are found not to be doing their jobs?
Repeat that again.
Can parents request the surety bonds of teachers, faculty when they are found not to be doing their jobs?
Of course. Have our people been suing them, going against their surety bonds? Have they been doing it?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't.
So now, isn't this back to the principles that we were talking earlier, that our people need to know how things are structured, how they work, so intelligently they themselves can restore their right of estate by doing what? Making claims against those who trespass. Write this word down too. Trespass against their estate that they didn't even know that they had. Back to the birthright issue, isn't it? And so my appeal is to people, is to us, to start doing things intelligently, more intelligently, and that the fact of our people having a comprehension of what's going on itself will bring the unity. That our people aren't going to come in unity just because it's a good idea and just because we need it. You cannot take an ignorance and liberty do not harmonize together. You know how they say when they make up these artificial figures in history, like Harriet Tubman and others, give our people illusionary works about liberty and stuff like that, to actually divert our people from recognizing that they're really the heirs of the land, and make them think they're running around the land from Europeans who are the Americans type concept, which is totally fraud. And then once they understand this is their estate, their whole paradigm will change, their frame of mind will change, their frame of reference will change, and their actions in the process will change. All of these are chess moves. They're doing chess moves to try to keep themselves in power, still pretending that they're government. And what you'll understand when you go into this is why we also tell people to read House Joint Resolution 192, because you'll find out that all the offices of the United States have been dissolved. So all these people claiming these offices are fronting. This is why I keep reminding people that make sure that you comprehend what de facto means when we're saying it to you. But because our people are behind the 8 ball, which means they have not been studying, and people who should have been teaching them been playing leader guy games with them rather than telling them the truth. And then they keep going to these de facto agencies seeking remedies that they're not going to get. And then giving them data to be used against you.
Here's a question from Jakari Bay. Why hasn't anything publicly changed yet 8 years later since the letter from Pope Francis to Obama?
A lot has changed.
Is that all on Trump?
Really, a lot has changed. Trump, keep in mind, Trump is a sign. He's a symbol. If you listen to Trump, his diction in relationship to the corruption, right? In truth, it's average. Yet the activities are more complex. So you know a lot of the policies of the transfer of misprision operatives to Gitmo, etc., is a more sophisticated operation than what you see on the surface with Trump. Trump is a figurehead. I said that before and I'm saying now. He was assigned. The presidency for the United States is dissolved.
Okay. Can you briefly explain the gold tassels around the U.S. maritime banner flag?
You already know that law of the seas, admiralty law, piracy, booty and prize, which is what's been taking place, and the people have been the booty and prize. And this consciousness is to get you in your own consciousness out of that jurisdiction. Stop consenting. How do you stop consenting? By enforcing the Constitution, like Durali said. In the process, you're enforcing the treaties, and you're enforcing the proper jurisdiction of what you call diversity, i.e., all treaties in force, etc. And this is back to lesson book 14 and 14A1 that we've been promoting since 92 area.
My understanding is that the laws being followed in the U.S. are based upon natural law. I know nationality is important, but how is nationality in alignment with natural law?
Because it's nature's law, nature's God, nature's law that you see noted in the unanimous Declaration of Independence, which is adopted from Fatwa or Muslim law, which Obama mentioned when he went to Egypt. See, it's not that these things haven't been said. It's apparent that people aren't emphasizing it. Are we clear?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that not to defend anybody's position. I'm arguing that a lot of these things have been exposed to the people, and people who should be emphasizing it are not emphasizing it. Same with the rights of indigenous people. Even when you deal with Act 1, Part 6, relative to them stealing people's children. And they have no lawful right to do that, but yet the people aren't going after their bonds, are they? They're going to the corporate court venues of human trafficking, trying to get due process and getting frustrated. Is this not the conversation we've had with family members in recent times, Dr. Nayo, that you're aware of?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're looking at the offspring, you're looking at, from a principle of admiralty, you're looking at property. Of properties and persons, isn't it? Well, haven't we been saying it for years?
Yep.
And I'm not trying to say that we're right and everybody's wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if I present a position, I present it on established fact and research. And then I encourage people to do the same so it becomes their own. Don't look at following what I say. Don't look at it from that perspective. Because I don't promote that paradigm. I promote the liberation, that it becomes your own. I promote that if we're going to be in unity and harmony, that they just follow the leader guy paradigm of the Piscean age is over. It's sort of like Durali said. He says, man, go to the altar of Allah and place your hand in Allah's hand yourself because the priesthood is dead type thing. You understand? He's Durali was all about liberation, and people, always try to twist it back into this, follow leader guy. Durali always said, he said, some of your grand governors have followers. Some of your grand sheiks have followers. Some of your sheikesses have followers. But I, your prophet, have no followers. People got to pay attention to things because he gave signals, but I'm not going to argue it. I'm just going to say, make it your own. And choose to act on it or choose not to. The point is, take responsibility for your destiny. Because the issues of cure have been placed before you. And caveats for what you did not know, keys were placed before you to lead you to them, with the instructions that you study and make it your own. I.e., every man, every woman, every child must confess their own. Stop looking for someone else to confess for you. And then look up the word confess too. And you're going to find out it means more than you think it does.
Here's a question. 2 questions. Well, I'll do this one first. From Christian Gogan. Why does the Pope kiss the feet of, it says, Black Moor ritualistically to commemorate the creation of their people?
Because you already know, they all know who is the real fathers and mothers of civilization. This is why even after they teach the BS in the public forum, they go down in their chambers and bow down to the Moabitess Madonna. And then the dirty ones will call it Black Madonna, which is no damn such thing.
Okay.
See, they do that. See, if you really study the dark priesthood and a lot of the demonism that they do, and a lot of Satanists that they practice, Satanism that they practice, you'll notice that in different methods, whether they do it by signs or symbols, or whether they do it by some allegorical story, etc., they will literally tell the people what they're going to do. Or they'll tell them the truth even if it's coded. Mm-hmm. But that's because they have knowledge that the laws of nature does not recognize person or station, and that all things living, all things being in existence are subject to those immutable divine laws, whether you're taking a positive or negative position. Therefore, for protection, or what you call karmic reduced response, this is why they focus on deception and fraud in order to get us to agree to fraud and commit violations, and then they, like a jackal, comes and devours the corruption that we agree to, etc. This is why people who really comprehend this thing, even though it's kind of rough on us, will say, say that people are slaves by consent. But then that must be examined to comprehend it, so that people, don't play victim all the time.
This question, okay.
Because we've been trained to play victim. And that mentality is also designed for us to give up our power and think that we are powerless against this stuff, when that's not true.
Here's a question from I'm stuck. It's not letting me go over there. And that's something. Stop. Okay. Sadiq Hog L says, "You know all this, brother Taj Tarik Bey. Why aren't you?"
No.
Let me finish. You know all this, brother Taj Tarik Bey. Why aren't you teaching this in the Moorish Science Temple of America?
You go to the Moorish Science Temple of America, that is what you call an outreach arm. And when I'm in the temple, like they say in Asbury Park, as an example, or even in the temple that was set up here in Delaware, Republic Territory, I taught these things. But I also, from experience, have recognized that in some of the temples, because of the infiltration, this information would not be allowed. This has much to do with the history of why I founded the Roundtable in 1982, and also why I'm here at the House of Reawakening Mind, where I'm not censored. And with that as a note, I would suggest they do the research and read the letter from Prophet Novadralis himself, referring to the infiltration and then trying to take over the movement and trying to disqualify him. It's documented. And also, for people to pretend that the movement was not infiltrated is dishonest. Because you already know that many of them, and you'll have a lot of people that over the years have come in the movement, because as you already know, Dr. Naila, I've already always by practice of the Roundtable, by protocol, sent people to the temple who were not there, had not gone to the temples. And you know a few people from your experience of people who's come to the House of Reawakening Minds that I've sent them to the temple, and they had that experience for themselves. As soon as they started sharing some of this information in secret or in private conversation, they would admit that they were right and would shut them down.
Right. But you know that all temples are not like that.
I didn't say all temples.
I know that. I mean, you and I have had this discussion.
Now, here we go again.
No, we're not having this.
Not for you. I'm talking about for people in general who make those kind of statements without research.
Right. You and I have had, I'm going to publicly say this, we've had major discussions with regard to temple.
In our evolution in studies.
Right. And I personally told you and others that I would never,
your experience.
that I would never join a temple because of what I'd seen. However,
from experience, but then you have some that are enforcing the law. Then Drew Ali said, the time is going to come, he says, the time is going to come when more is going to come into the movement with their eyes wide open and will enforce my law. Why would he say that? Except the caveat is that with the recognition that those who were in seats at the present were not enforcing the law.
Right.
Isn't that quite obvious?
Mm-hmm.
When you do the research into the FBI papers, FBI documents, infiltration into the Moorish movement, and also in the congressional records, when you do the research into the history of American religions, you'll see a lot of organizations that have been claiming nation of this and nation of that were breakoffs from the Moorish movement due to infiltration, but that's not known openly to the public, is it?
No.
But it's documented, isn't it? So when you find these things out for yourself, it's another frame of mind than you have than someone just telling you these things, isn't it? When you start walking the walk yourself, isn't it?
Right.
Then you start going to some Moorish Science Temple of America, and then you see them acknowledge the Moorish Holy Temple of Science operations, because Noble Drew Ali set up a civic organization, didn't he?
Yep.
Give me the literature book, and I'll read that to you for some people who don't know.
What literature book?
The literature book.
But for the record, I have joined the temple.
Now,
so there are. Right.
Here's the literature book issued in the Moorish Science Temple of America, and I want you all to pay attention to this. And this is also addressing the last statement or question that was presented to you that we were answering, right?
Yes.
And I want you to pay attention because this will answer much for you. Moorish leaders' historical message to America. And I'm going to read all, and it'll also give you reference points for research. So be patient. It's not too long. It's only a couple pages. However, it's important for anybody who has questions about the Moorish movement. Very important. In connection, this is Moorish leaders' historical message to America. Noble Drew Ali. In connection with the aims, objects, rules, and regulations of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I deem it proper to submit to you a brief statement of our organization covering its inception, rise, and progress, and of the Mohammedan religion, which I hope will be satisfactory to you and be the means of causing you at all times to adhere to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in your relation with mankind in general. I further most anxiously hope this brief statement will help you to more clearly see the duty and wisdom of all times upholding those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization, for our posterity, and as obedience to law, respect and loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. We organized as the Moorish Temple of Science in the year 1925 and were legally incorporated as a civic organization under the laws of the state of Illinois on November 29th of 1926. The name Moorish Science Temple was changed to the Moorish Temple of Science was changed to the Moorish Science Temple of America, May 1928, in accordance with the legal requirements of the Secretary of State, etc. Of Illinois, pardon me. The object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity, and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. Now, that's just a few paragraphs of about 4 or 5 pages. And right now, Many of you know, which was said earlier with the sister when she says, Taj, Tarik Bey, why are you not teaching these things in the Moore Science Temple of America?
That was a brother that asked us.
A brother, etc. And you will find that many of the governors, i.e. of the Moore Science Temple of America, have been promoting for years that this is no civic organization. That is a religious organization only, talking about that religious affidavit. And therefore, those civic activities and enforcement of Constitution, which is civics, was not allowed in the teaching forums accordingly. That's an established fact. It's not a condemnation, and it's not a support, etc. It is just a fact of information for those who have wondered why I founded the Roundtable in 1982 and why I became a Mayor of the Order of the Great Seal with a registration in the Library of Congress, etc. And that's a fact. And I've been operative for years, etc. And I've been known for that around the world. But you don't see me going promoting that title, etc. I just do the work. And then by virtue of that, authorized to go to the hedges and the highways to help make our people aware, and by order of the Great Seal of the ancient Canaanite Moabite nation, by right of law and right of position delegated, have been nationalizing people. And then promoting them go to the temple and also for them to study and not trying to make them followers and club members, which I already know has been detrimental to our people. Other people may take different positions. I'm not arguing with them. They got to do what their mother sent them to do. In the end, we'll see who has the proper chess move. Because the stuff is falling apart now, ain't it?
Morris Ruth said, Miss G, you be starting trouble. Not trouble in my start. I ain't starting no trouble. You got me confused there.
Yeah, so he's not starting this stuff.
I ain't starting no trouble. I just speak the truth in love. And like
we talk on. It's like this. In order to fix things, we can't be sensitive, and we've got to be honest.
I ask you very.
And we got to be honest with the questions.
I ask you very honest questions. I mean,
and that's honest.
When I joined the temple, I ask you if that affected you, if you had an issue with. I mean, I did what I did because I'm grown and make my own decisions.
And once I heard some of the things they're teaching, I say, go ahead. You need that experience.
Absolutely.
Because it becomes your own.
Right.
And you'll comprehend why they're doing what they're doing and that they're proper.
Right.
And for those who question, we're talking about Temple 43.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's not discrediting any other temples. We're just talking about our experience, our walk.
Right.
Because this is a walk of learning.
Absolutely.
And there's some who acknowledge that Noble Drawley taught civics, and there's some that won't. And so you understand some of the schism.
Right.
You know, we ain't mad. This is a war. They've been warring on us. And not to admit that would be irresponsible and dishonest, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it be?
It would.
You can't help the people by lying to them, can you?
Right. Let me ask you this question that I didn't see this down here. That's because we're at the end. Says, please ask Grand Sheik, as far as nationality of Moorish Latins throughout Central America, how do we bridge the seeming language comprehension issue when dealing with nationality?
All right, here we go. Now, for those of you who have available to you, the Circle 7 Quran, give me the Circle 7 Quran.
Mine's all over there.
Is it where?
It's over there. They were in that. See that thing with the lines around? I mean, see the book with the rings? It's in that envelope. All of them were over there. So when I do study, see that thing right there?
Oh, yes.
The envelope, they're inside.
Excuse me just a minute.
I'm sorry. They do a pilot check. I can't figure out where this is to get out of here. You see them in there? Yeah, they're in that envelope.
Yep. Now, I want to read from the Circle 7 Quran and give you some sound social political concepts. Now, repeat that question for the people.
Okay, as far as nationality of Moorish Latins throughout Central America, how do we bridge the seeming language comprehension issue when dealing with nationality?
Now in the political realm, you would call that Tower of Babel, in the splitting of the language.
Babel, or what? Babel. Babel. We call it Babel.
Now, in fact, you would also comprehend the dominion of Africa. This is very important, and this would be chapter 47, Egypt, the capital empire of the dominion of Africa. The inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the Father and the Son. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa across the great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands before the great earthquake which caused the great Atlantic Ocean. The river Nile was dredged and made by the ancient pharaohs of Egypt in order to trade with the surrounding kingdoms. Also, the Niger River was dredged by the great pharaoh of Egypt in those ancient days for trade, and it extends eastward from the river Nile, westward across the great Atlantic, and it was used for trade and transportation. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the Holy Land of Canaan. What your ancient forefathers were, you are today, without doubt or contradiction. And there is no one who is able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator Allah himself. These holy and divine laws are from the Prophet Noble Ali, the founder of the uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And these laws are to be strictly preserved by the members of all the temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that they will learn to open their meetings and guide it according to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and to create their own laws and customs in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. And I, the Prophet Noble Ali, was sent by the great God Allah to warn all Asiatics of America to repent from their sinful ways before that great and dreadful day that is sure to come. The time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess his own. And through sin of disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the words Negro, black, and colored were given to the Asiatics of America, who were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mothers and fathers, and strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing. So as you can see, when you're dealing with America, North, Central, and South, you're dealing with the Moroccan Empire. And of course, they will tell you, and this is after the fall of the Red House the Alhambra in Al Andalusia, which they refer to as Spain after the military operations known as Ferdinand and Isabella, etc., which are military operations, not so much just people as you've been told, etc. That's when Al Andalusia was named Spain. And so the Moorish Latin was called Spanish, which does not exist. It's Moorish Latin. And so when you go into Moorish history, you will see, or the Moorish Canaanite history, you'll see the multiple dialects from Ibri, that you call Hebrew, from Urdu, Persic, etc., which you call Persia, etc., Persic, Arabic, Aramaic, etc. All of these are dialectical forms. And before the Germanic tribes of hybrid Europeans took over and started burning books and destroying erudition systems of human development, etc., it was common, and it's common now even with many people of Africa who are less colonized than we are here, to speak 7 or 8 languages as a common format. And as you can see, usually when you come more to the north side, you'll see more of the Moors are less able to dialectically disseminate the different dialectical forms of Moorish Latin, etc. And so there's a concept of that we only speak one language type thing, when that's never been true. And so this is again why etymology, or the etymon degree, is not taught to the people, particularly in the North, because the heartland of the North of North America is where they've been launching the wars against the rest of the world, etc. So it was vital to the hybrid Europeans to suppress fundamental erudition among the Moors of the North. So much of our linguistic Babel suffering comes from that. So it is in our interest to we make those repairs, but know for sure that all of the people, the Tainos, the Borican, etc., Arawak, etc., in the Carib, all the different Caribs, all of these are Moorish Berber tribes. Get over it and start loving one another and start executing your right of estate. Anyway, I want to thank you all for sharing this night with us, etc. And as usual, we try to answer a lot of questions, and we try to be open and understand that and comprehend that we have dialogue, because we're family. We're not trying to be, we're the boss and you're the follower. That's not how this works. And as you study, you bring stuff to the table. And yes, ask those tight questions, because they need to be answered, because a lot more people need to be questioned on things that they've been doing. Anyway, your continued support of the House of Reawakening Minds is greatly appreciated. We want you to know that. We really do. And you can volunteer to assist us with your technical skills and abilities by calling Dr. G during normal business hours at 302-345-0500. That is 302-345-0500. And you can also support via Cash App at cash.me/$reawaken, or PayPal at paypal.me/Nyla Gilliam, or send money orders payable to House of Reawakening Minds, and that will be sent to 602 Vandiver Avenue, Wilmington, Delaware, Republic, zip exempt 19802. Thank you for sharing this evening with us, and we hope we help again, because unless our people know what got us in this condition, we can talk all kinds of trash and come together with all kinds of clubisms, but you're not going to heal the nation, and you can't create a new nation. The nation already exists. It's been injured, and it's our duty to help in the great missionary work of uplifting and fallen humanity. And so we need healing, we need support, etc., but do it with love good intentions, and never with selfish, narcissistic intent, etc. And so you all have a grand evening. And Dr. Naila, will you share anything with us tonight before we close out?
I think I've shared enough.
All right.
I thank everyone again. Just to echo what you said, we thank everyone for their ongoing support. All the phone calls we get on a regular basis, on a daily basis. I'm having a little problem getting this stuff unstuck. The calls, the emails, and I apologize sometimes when I don't get to answer your emails.
Remember, we're doing multiple things.
Yeah, and it's just a handful doing it, like two hands.
Yeah.
So we just thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for your orders for USB drives, and anything we can do to help, please just reach out to us.
Particularly the Maghreb, he cooked Egypt of the West, that you know as Maghreb or the North Gate, North America, and the Aboriginal peoples here in their operations. And in their social engineering operations, they set up or adopted a set of code, social engineering, particularly constructed from the dark side priesthood of the Bishopric of Rome, and they're known as the Christian Black Codes of 1724, adopted into all of the operative trading states of business operating at North America, which later becomes what you've been told are the states of the Union, which for the most part have been operating in from a de facto platform, particularly since 1860, 61, 62, and constructively well organized since 1871. When those of you who know about some of the operative political body politic operations operating at North America, you will be familiar with what is known as the Organic Act of Congress of 1871, and most scholars and peoples who teach civics are well aware of that official operations of de facto political platforms. Now, operatively, in order to write themselves into the history of the Asiatics here at the North Gate, many among the hybrid Europeans, coming from most of what they would call the dross class, coming from the Iberian Peninsula that you know as Europe today, etc. Thereafter, particularly after the 1800s, but much of the battles that have taken place on the land since the 1700s, etc., has been in the what you would call stage by stage eventual overthrow of the Moorish Empire at the Maghreb or the Western Hemisphere, generally referred to in history books as the colonization of North America. That's the cover for the colonization and the conquest of the Maghreb, or what is known as the Red House, also referred to as Casablanca, also referred to as Humpty Dumpty. But we're going to go into some of their operative psychology, and it integrated within their operations. It must be comprehended and must be overstood and understood by the people that the hybrid Europeans who have been operating for the last couple hundred years at North America in a de facto pseudo sovereign authoritative position, much of their authority or jurisdictional powers comes from conquest, therefore de facto, um, unconstitutional, therefore de facto, in breach of treaties, therefore de facto. However, to the degree that they have been making decisions politically, socially, and economically that has not only affected we Moors of the North Gate, but also other nations and tribes on the planet due to their hegemony operations, also using in the nature of their operations dark magic, human trafficking, pedophilia, um, flesh eating, etc. Um, Negative vibrations used through all scientific methods and tools, etc. However, it's important for people who are less than aware of what's actually at the root of the politics operating at North America to be aware of one of their main tools that have been used by the hybrid Europeans who have conquered the Moors of the North Gate, but also it's being presented for the people to be aware that the energies and the psychosis that have come from these operations is also dying. So when you see, or as you see the people around the planet awakening or reawakening to a cognizance that's related to the ancient Egypto, ancient Egypt, ancient Africa, Asia, and those principles, it has more to do with people becoming aware of the negative dark tools that have been used to suppress them. And to that degree, and on that note, we're sharing some of the Christian Black codes of 1724, and many of you who are already aware of it or of those codes are aware of some of the entries and the psychoses that are placed within it, and also the psychic attacks, the points are made for mind control, for breaking up families, etc. And we're going to hit on all of them. In the Christian Black Codes of 1724, there's 54 articles, basically. But we're going to go through a few of them so you can look at some of the social engineering that you see going on every day and understand and comprehend much of their motivations, much of the de facto legislation that takes place in and among those who are part of the demo operations of the Kaiklos and Ku Klux Klan operations, which you know today as the Cotton Wigs and the Conscience Wigs, who are veiled in what is known as the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, operating on the land in a de facto structure at North America. In the fact of the matter, from a true political perspective, that is their own private human trafficking political platforms, which have no what you call honor relationship to us, the people of the land. However, because it affects us, and